I wasn't invited to my sister's wedding. Let that sink in. Not a distant cousin. Not a college friend she hadn't seen in years. I'm talking about her sister, her only sibling, me. My name is Lila Carter. I'm 30 years old. A senior strategy lead at a fintech company in Seattle. I pay my taxes. I read nonfiction. I try to drink enough water. I also happen to be the sister of Eliza Carter, who just so happens to be getting married next month. Correction, was getting married next month. And I was never on the guest list. We were never the same, Eliza and I. She was light, bubbly, loud, always filming a story or trying on a new lipstick in public. I was structure, quiet. I liked spreadsheets, rainy mornings, books with complicated protagonists. Still, we were close, or at least I thought we were. I was the one who helped her through 3 breakups, 2 job losses, and 1 very expensive dental emergency. I loaned her money. I covered for her with Mom when she flaked out on family dinners. I never asked for anything in return. Until that night. The message came at 11:42 p.m., lit up my phone like any other notification. Short, sterile, void of feeling. Hey Lila, just wanted to let you know the guest list is finalized, and we had to make some tough cuts. Hope you understand. Love you. I stared at it, waiting for more. Another text, a follow-up. Maybe a just kidding. Nothing came. Just that message. Tough cuts. I wasn't a colleague. I wasn't some college roommate from 6 years ago. I was her sister. I felt the breath leave my chest slowly, like someone had cracked open a window in winter. Not rage, not even sadness. Just that hollow space grief sits in before it decides what form to take. Still I hoped. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe her fiancé had sent it. Maybe Mom didn't know. So I called her. Our mother. She answered on the second ring, cheerful as ever, like nothing was wrong. Lila, sweetheart, everything okay? I didn't waste time. Eliza says the guest list is finalized. I'm not on it. There was a pause, just long enough to say everything. Then, oh, honey, don't make this a thing. It's just a wedding. Just a wedding. That phrase. It lodged in my chest like a shard of ice. Mom, I'm her sister. She made that tisking sound she always used when I was being overly sensitive. They had to keep it small. You know how venues are. My voice lowered. She invited 120 people. Silence, then a forced little laugh. Well, maybe they thought you wouldn't mind missing this one. This one. Like it was a brunch invite or a casual family BBQ. Not one of the most important days of her life. Not that I was counting. But I'd driven 6 hours in the rain to help her move apartments. Twice. I lent her my emergency savings when her dog needed surgery. I sat through her panic attacks and proofread her resume at 3 a.m. But this was intentional. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I stared at my ceiling for a while, and when the room stopped spinning, I opened my laptop. Last-minute luxury solo vacations. I wasn't going to the wedding. I was going somewhere better. Somewhere they couldn't reach me. Not with guilt. Not with fake apologies. Not with another, you know she didn't mean it. Because this time, I meant it. There's a kind of clarity that only comes in the middle of the night, when your phone screen is the only light in the room, and everything feels just a little too sharp. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Anger implies surprise, like I hadn't seen this coming. But in hindsight, I had. I'd just chosen not to admit it. This wasn't the first time Eliza cut me off when it was convenient. When she wanted to move to LA for a 6-month influencer contract, I was the one who helped her sublease her apartment, paid the deposit for her temporary studio, and drove her to the airport. She ghosted me for 5 of those 6 months, came home, broke, and didn't say thank you. When Mom got sick, I was the one who took time off work, drove her to chemo, picked up prescriptions. Eliza posted a throwback photo with Mom and captioned it, My Rock, Nina Yai, Iceland, from a brunch in Cabo, and yet, I never said anything. I swallowed it, because that's what I did. I was the buffer, the fixer, the one who didn't make things harder than they already were. But being excluded from her wedding? That wasn't just careless. That was deliberate. I opened a blank document on my laptop, something I hadn't done in years. Titled it, "The Guest List Doesn't Include Me." I didn't know if I was writing a letter or a manifesto. Maybe both. Then I opened a new tab. Luxury escapes for solo travelers. Not tropical. I didn't want warm beaches or umbrella drinks. I didn't want anyone thinking I was pretending to be okay. I wanted something colder, more honest. Iceland, maybe? Sharp landscapes, fire and ice. Silence. I clicked on a boutique stay in the north, tucked between volcanic fields and a glacier-fed lake. Remote. Quiet. Almost mythic. Private villa. On-site chef. Sauna carved into rock. I looked at the price. Then clicked Book Now. Because for once, I wasn't spending money on anyone else. Not on birthday gifts they'd forget. Not on favors that would never be returned. This was mine. I walked to my closet, pulled out my old suitcase. The same one I used when I moved to Seattle 7 years ago, when Eliza promised she'd visit every month. She came once. As I laid it on the bed, something fell out of the side pocket. A photo strip, the two of us, younger, laughing in a mall photo booth. Her hair in curls, my braces barely visible. She'd kept that photo on her fridge for years. I hadn't seen it since. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I put it in the drawer. I wasn't taking ghosts with me. Packing was automatic. Leggings, sweaters, my heaviest boots, a journal I hadn't opened in 2 years, noise-canceling headphones, and a silk scarf I'd bought on a whim but never worn. Everything had its place. I checked the weather in Akureyri. 22 degrees, snow expected, perfect. Back at my desk, I queued an out-of-office email. I'll be offline for personal time from the 15th, 25th. For urgent matters, please contact my assistant. Then I turned off my work phone and placed it face down in a drawer. Somewhere, I knew my mother was sipping chamomile tea and scrolling through bridal Pinterest boards with Eliza. They probably hadn't even noticed my silence yet, but they would. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty about it. I zipped up my suitcase and took one last look around my apartment. It was still, clean, waiting. As I turned off the lights and climbed into bed, one thought rang louder than the rest. If I'm not welcome at their celebration, I won't be available for their disaster. And oh, I could feel it coming. The morning I left, Seattle was shrouded in that soft winter mist that makes everything look like it's been erased at the edges. I stood in my apartment doorway for a beat longer than I meant to. One hand on the light switch, the other gripping the suitcase handle. This time, I wasn't leaving for someone else's crisis. This wasn't about running. It was about opting out. I locked the door behind me and didn't look back. At the airport, couples argued over baggage fees. A toddler threw a fit at the self-check-in kiosk. Somewhere nearby, someone was FaceTiming their dog. None of it touched me. I had checked in online. No carry-on, no distractions. Just a window seat, a black cashmere coat, and a book I probably wouldn't read. As I waited at the gate, I scrolled through Eliza's Instagram, not out of pain, but precision. She had posted a reel of her and her fiancé at their rehearsal dinner tasting. The caption, "Surround yourself with the people who always show up." The irony almost made me laugh. Comment after comment flooded in. "So happy for you guys. Eliza, you're glowing. Can't wait for the big day." I didn't hit like. I didn't type a reply, I just locked my phone and placed its screen down beside me. The flight to Reykjavik was long, quiet, and nearly empty. A few scattered travelers wrapped in oversized scarves and silence. I watched the clouds drift beneath us like smoke. The seat beside me stayed empty. At one point, the attendant asked if I was traveling for business or pleasure. I said, "Neither, just clarity." She smiled like she didn't quite get it, but I did. Because this wasn't about revenge in the classic sense. I wasn't plotting anything. I was just stepping away from the table they had built without me. Touchdown in Iceland was like entering another planet. Snow shimmered under a half-awake sun. The air was so cold and clean it felt like biting into a new beginning. My driver, a quiet man named Gylfi, held up a sign with my name. He offered me a bottle of glacier water and didn't ask a single question. I liked him immediately. We drove in silence past fields of black volcanic rock dusted with white. The landscape was wild, untouched, honest, like it had never learned to apologize for what it was. I cracked the window and let the frozen wind sting my cheeks. The boutique lodge sat nestled between two hills, its roof dusted with snow, its windows glowing golden against the icy dusk. My villa overlooked a fjord. Private hot tub, fireplace, floor-to-ceiling glass. They offered me champagne at check-in. I took tea instead. Inside the room, everything was soft. Wool throws, fur rugs, dim lighting. But I wasn't here to be cradled. I was here to feel. I set my bag down and walked to the window. Outside, the wind danced across the frozen surface of the lake. I watched the sky bleed slowly into lavender. Then, with almost surgical precision, I snapped a photo. Me, legs up, steaming mug in hand, snow-covered peaks in the distance. Caption: Guess I didn't make the guest list. I think I'll survive. I didn't do it to be cruel. But maybe, just maybe, I wanted them to feel even a fraction of what I had felt, not rage, not shame, just absence. By the time I climbed into bed that night, fire crackling, tea steeping, my post had already been shared 12 times. My cousin commented, "OMG, iconic." Someone from work messaged, "Where is this? Looks like heaven." And my aunt, always blunt, said, "Your mother's going to have a stroke. Worth it." I smiled. For the first time in days, I didn't feel heavy. Let them have their wedding. Let them toast and pose and hashtag. I had something better. I had distance. The messages started the next morning. First one, then another, then 6. I had just come in from a walk around the frozen lake, cheeks flushed from the wind, body weightless from the silence. My phone buzzed once in my coat pocket, then again, and again. I ignored it at first. I assumed it was more reactions to the post, maybe someone asking for the lodge name or complimenting the view. But when I reached the porch and pulled the phone from my pocket, I saw the names. Mom, Eliza, Aunt Claire, Cousin Jenna. Unknown number. Mom again. I didn't open any of them. I just stood there on the wooden steps, breathing in cold air and watching mist curl above the hot tub. Then a message preview flashed across the screen. "Call me. It's an emergency." Mom. "Please. Something happened." Eliza. "Where are you?" Mom again. I sighed. Not out of concern. Out of inevitability. I went inside, poured myself a mug of mulled wine, and finally opened one message. It was from Jenna. "You are not going to believe what just happened." I texted back. "Try me." She replied within seconds. "Eliza's wedding. It blew up. Like, actually blew up." I raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean, blew up?" She sent me a flurry of texts so fast I had to scroll just to catch up. The groom and Eliza got into this huge fight. Apparently, she didn't tell him about her credit card debt, and he found out from one of the groomsmen. He walked out, like left, mid-reception. In front of everyone. People were screaming. Mom fainted. Eliza threw her bouquet at the DJ. It hit a kid. I set the mug down, covered my mouth, and tried very hard not to laugh. But she wasn't done. Your mom tried to chase after Nathan, but she slipped on the dance floor and cracked her phone. Uncle David blamed Eliza for humiliating the family. Grandma cried and said it was a sign from God. The bar shut down because no one paid the open tab. The cake got knocked over when some kid ran through it. Oh, and the photographer left before the first dance. My screen blinked with a new message, from Eliza herself. "Lila, please, I need to talk to you." Another one immediately after. "Where are you? I need my sister right now." My sister. Now she remembered. Not when she was ordering place cards. Not when she was choosing her closest circle for the ceremony. Not when she made a seating chart that didn't include me. Now. Now that it was falling apart. Another message, this time from Mom. "You're being petty. This isn't the time. Eliza needs you. The family needs you. I smiled, a slow, silent smile, and leaned back into the fur-lined chair near the fireplace. Jenna sent one last update. Eliza had a full meltdown, screaming, ugly crying. Bridesmaids tried to calm her down, but she blamed everyone. The groom's mom said, "This is why we never trusted her. They're saying if you had been there, it wouldn't have gone down like this. You always calmed her." That made me pause. Oh, now I was the emotional glue? The fixer? The one they spent months pretending didn't matter, was now the one who could have saved it? That was rich. I opened my camera and took a photo of my fireplace, my glass of wine, and my feet in wool socks, propped up on a sheepskin rug. Caption: starting my evening stress-free. Hope everyone else is doing okay. I hit post. Then I turned my phone face down again. Let them spiral. Let them stew. Let them sit with the version of reality they created. Because I wasn't at the wedding. But somehow, I was at the center of it all. And I didn't even have to raise my voice. By the next morning, the group chat that used to be called Carter Family Vibes had been renamed to We Need to Talk, Urgent. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. There's a certain peace in knowing that your silence has become the loudest sound in someone else's chaos. After breakfast, smoked trout, rye toast, and Icelandic butter so good I almost wept. I sat on the edge of my villa's deck, watching fog rise off the water. My phone buzzed every few minutes, each vibration like a ghost knocking at the door. New message: Eliza. Please pick up, I'm not okay. Then another: Mom, I know things got messy, but she's still your sister. Then, a voice memo from Eliza. I don't know why I tapped it. Maybe I was curious. Maybe I was softening. Her voice was barely holding it together. Lila, I don't know what happened. 1 second everything was perfect. The next, Nathan was gone. The DJ left. Grandma was crying. I needed you. You always fix things. Please. I'm begging you. Begging. Interesting. Because I don't remember begging when I asked why I was left out. I don't recall anyone rushing to fix things for me. Jenna texted me again. Cousin, unofficial family reporter at this point. Okay, so apparently Eliza blamed her maid of honor for not keeping Nathan calm. Then she blamed your mom for pushing her to hide the debt. Then she screamed at the groom's mother and said, "You were never going to accept me anyway." They tried to get her to stay and do damage control. She locked herself in the bridal suite and threw her bouquet at the mirror. Oh, and Uncle Brian called it a karmic breakdown. I nearly choked on my tea. Then came the photos, grainy but clear enough. A chair knocked over, a bridesmaid sobbing in a corner, a shattered champagne glass under the dessert table, and Eliza, mid-scream, mascara streaking down her cheeks. If you had told me a week ago that my absence would unravel a $45,000 wedding, I might have laughed. But now? Now I wasn't laughing, I was breathing. Another message from Mom. We all made mistakes, but what matters is fixing it. Come home, be the bigger person. There it was, the phrase I had grown up hearing. Be the bigger person. Translate: swallow your pain, hide your anger, show up even when they don't deserve you. But I wasn't doing that anymore. I thought about replying, something simple, cold, final. But instead, I walked out to the edge of the frozen dock, wrapped myself in a blanket, and sat down with my journal. I wrote, they didn't invite me to their celebration, but they expected me to be the solution to their collapse. I'm not their fixer. I'm not their fallback. I am not available. Later that afternoon, I opened my phone and posted one more photo. The black sand beach, a single footprint, my scarf blowing in the wind. Caption: funny how they only notice your absence when everything falls apart. No names, no rage, just truth. Quiet and clean. The likes poured in. Old friends I hadn't heard from in years messaged me things like, This is the kind of peace I've been craving. Your strength is unreal. But my favorite came from Aunt Claire. If silence was a superpower, you'd be unstoppable. And she wasn't wrong. because silence wasn't just my answer, it was my revolution. The next morning, I awoke to the sound of snow tapping gently against the glass window, like Iceland itself was exhaling. I hadn't checked my phone in hours, and the silence had been delicious, but curiosity can be a dangerous thing. I took one sip of coffee, braced myself, and opened it. 32 missed calls, 11 new voicemails, over 60 unread messages. The first voicemail was from Mom. "Lila, this isn't funny. You've made your point, but this is not the time for one of your episodes. Eliza's devastated. The whole family is falling apart. You need to come home." Episodes. That word again. Like I was a malfunctioning character in someone else's sitcom. Like I hadn't earned the right to withdraw. Next up, Eliza. Her voice was strained, fragile in a way that felt performative. "I'm not asking for much. Just a conversation. Just a minute of your time. I don't know what to do. Everyone's blaming me, and I need you." It would have moved me once, but not this time. This time, I heard something different in her voice. Not remorse, not even love. Dependence, and I realized something chilling. They didn't miss me. They missed the version of me that absorbed everything. The one who fixed, who smoothed, who folded herself smaller to fit whatever gap they needed filled. That version of me was gone. A few more messages trickled in. "Cousin Jenna again. Grandma says you abandoning the family is what cursed the wedding. But honestly, I think it was doomed from the start." Then, a different number. "Aunt Maggie, the one person in my family who never asked for anything." Her message was short. "You did the right thing, Lila. I'm proud of you. Let them learn." I sat with that one for a while. That afternoon, I opened my contacts list. My thumb hovered over the names. Mom, Eliza, Uncle Brian, Aunt Ruth. Then I tapped block, block, block. Not out of spite, but for safety. Not as punishment, but as protection. Because once you stop responding, they call it silence. But what it really is space. And I was finally claiming mine. Later, wrapped in my coat, I hiked out past the main road and found a quiet ridge overlooking the valley. The wind was sharp but honest. The view, impossibly wide. I sat there for an hour. No music, no distractions, just me, and a kind of stillness I hadn't felt in years. And in that stillness, I remembered a line from a book I once underlined. "You teach people how to treat you by what you accept." I had accepted too much for too long, no more. That evening, I posted one final story. It was a photo of the sunset bleeding orange across the snowy peaks, my silhouette, small in the foreground, facing away. Caption: "No response is still a response." The next morning, a new text came in, from Jenna, the only one I hadn't blocked. "Just a heads up. They're planning a family talk when you get back. Mom thinks you'll cave." I smiled. Cave? I wasn't standing on shaky ground anymore. I replied, "Thanks for the warning, but I'm not coming back." Jenna's response came quickly. "OMG, that's kind of iconic. Tell me everything when you're ready." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Instead, I opened my laptop and added 7 more days to my stay. Because this wasn't just a break anymore. This was a shift, a reclamation, a quiet, beautiful revolt. And the best part? They couldn't stop me. I stopped checking my phone. I stopped checking in. I stopped checking out of my own life. There was a strange freedom in that, like loosening a knot that had lived at the base of your spine for years. Each day settled into its own rhythm. In the morning, I'd wake to the sound of snow shifting against the windows, like the world was quietly rearranging itself. I'd brew coffee in a handmade ceramic pot, wrap myself in a wool shawl, and sit by the fire with nothing but silence and steam. I didn't open emails. I didn't scroll. I just sat. By mid-morning, I'd hike the black volcanic trails that ran behind the lodge. The ground beneath my boots crunched like old secrets. The wind roared across the ridges, and I let it blow through me, clean me out. I started writing again, not emails or reports or lists, but real writing, raw, jagged, mine. Essays. Letters I'd never send. Pieces of truth I had buried for so long, I barely recognized them. One of the lines I wrote stayed with me. You don't have to go back just because someone left the door open. One afternoon, I visited a tiny geothermal greenhouse tucked between cliffs. The caretaker, a silver-haired Icelandic woman named Loa, poured me tea made from herbs she grew herself. She didn't ask why I was there. Didn't ask if I was okay. She just said, "Sometimes roots go bad before the leaves even know, and the longer you keep watering something rotten, the more you poison yourself." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Some truths just land. Quietly, perfectly. I started to forget the timeline of the wedding. Which day was the ceremony? When the cake fell? When the chaos hit its peak? It all faded into fog. Because something deeper was rising in me. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. Space. Not loneliness, not numbness. But space to breathe, to stretch, to become. One night, I walked down to the dock barefoot, holding a lantern in both hands. The sky above was streaked with stars. The water below as still as glass. I lit the lantern, small, warm, flickering, and whispered, to the version of me that stayed silent to keep the peace. She deserved better. Then I placed it on the surface of the lake and watched it drift into the dark. Not as a goodbye, but as a thank you. Because that version of me got me here. And now, I could let her rest. I didn't feel anger toward Eliza anymore. Not even sadness. What I felt was distance. Clean, quiet, earned. And with that came perspective. That sometimes the greatest revenge is not silence. It's peace. Not disappearing, but appearing fully, for yourself. Later that night, I sat on the villa rooftop with a glass of cold white wine and a bowl of sweet berries. A couple nearby was arguing, sharp whispers, hurt looks, unfinished sentences. I heard every word. And for once, I didn't flinch, didn't feel the pull to intervene, to fix, to take sides. I just looked up at the stars and thought, it's not my job to carry everyone anymore. Then I took another sip of wine and smiled. Because for the first time in years, I was nobody's second choice, nobody's last-minute call, nobody's fixer. I was just Lila. And that was finally enough. The final message came 3 days before my flight home. I was sitting by the window, curled into a wool throw, watching frost etch its way across the glass. The sky had begun to melt into soft orange, the kind of sunset that makes you forget anything ever hurt. My phone buzzed once, the only person I hadn't blocked. Jenna. Hey, just so you know, Eliza's been asking about you again. She says she didn't realize what she lost until it was too late. Grandma told her it's not too late to fix things. I think they're hoping you'll come home, just to talk. Just to talk. Like everything that came before had been a small misunderstanding. Like I hadn't been erased and expected to reappear when it was convenient. Like my absence wasn't deliberate, sacred. I stared at the message, read it twice, then once more. But the feeling I expected, the pull, the ache, the guilt, it didn't come. Instead, I looked up. Outside, the sun was stretching its last light across the snow. Golden streaks over dark stone. It looked like something being reborn. I picked up my phone and typed a response. Tell her I wish her peace, but I've already found mine. Then I set it down and stepped out into the night. That evening, I rented a small boat. Just me, a thermos of hot tea, and a single candle in a glass jar. I paddled into the lagoon, the water silent and black, like ink holding its breath. I didn't cry, not because it didn't hurt, but because I had already grieved, quietly. Completely. I set the candle afloat and watched it drift. Then I whispered, to the dark and to no one, I forgive you. Not as a gift, not as a weakness, but as a release. Back in the villa, I packed slowly. Not with heaviness, but with reverence. Every item folded with care, every movement intentional. And when I reached into the side pocket of my suitcase, the same one that once held that old photo strip, I found something else. A small folded note from myself, written on the second night of the trip when I was still unraveling. It read, "Don't go back just because they ask. Go only if your peace goes with you." I smiled. I knew what I had to do. I didn't board the return flight. I booked another week, somewhere new, farther north, a cabin where the northern lights painted the ceiling green, and the only soundtrack was melting ice. And in that stillness, I started to build something, not revenge, not spite, a new language of self-worth. One that didn't rely on being needed. One that didn't require proving anything. Back home, or what used to be home, I heard they tried to rewrite the story. Mom told people I was traveling for work. Eliza said we were just going through a thing. Aunt Claire claimed I had always been dramatic. Let them. People who never understood your presence will always try to reframe your absence. I didn't need to correct the record. I was the record. Weeks later, on a beach in a country I'd never been, I met someone who asked, "So what brought you here?" And I said, "A wedding. Just not mine." He laughed. I didn't. But I smiled. Because it wasn't about where I went. It was about where I never went back to. I had finally stopped begging for a seat at their table and built my own. Facing the ocean, bathed in silence, lined with peace, and I never looked back.